Hello, Dr. Flores. My name is Rhoda Basie, and in this presentation, I will summarize several important project management concepts I learned throughout this course. Over the duration of this class, I gained a much deeper understanding of how project managers plan, execute, monitor, and lead projects while balancing scope, schedule, cost, quality, risk, and stakeholder expectations. According to the Guide to the Project Management Body of Knowledge, successful project management requires integrating technical knowledge with leadership and decision-making skills. Throughout this course, I learned that project management is far more complex than simply creating schedules or assigning tasks. Successful project managers must gather and analyze data, develop structured project plans, anticipate risk, communicate effectively, and make leadership decisions under uncertainty. PMI emphasizes that project success depends on balancing stakeholder needs, project constraints, and organizational objectives. One major takeaway for me was learning how every project decision directly affects cost, schedule, quality, team performance, and stakeholder satisfaction. One of the first things I learned is that project managers cannot make good decisions without gathering accurate information. Data gathering allows managers to understand stakeholder needs, project requirements, constraints, and possible risk before project execution begins. Some common data gathering methods include interviews, surveys and questionnaires, brainstorming sessions, focus groups, observations, expert judgment, and reviewing historical project data. Horine explains that strong project planning starts with collecting reliable data because inaccurate assumptions often lead to scope, schedule, and cost problems later in the project. Once project data has been collected, managers must analyze that information to support decision making. Throughout this course, I learned several data analysis tools, including root cause analysis, SWOT analysis, cost benefit analysis, earned value management, trend analysis, variance analysis, and performance measurement. Kerzner explains that project analysis tools help managers identify performance gaps and improve forecasting accuracy. I learned that project managers constantly analyze information to detect problems early because waiting too long often causes budget overruns and schedule delays. One major lesson from this course is that projects succeed or fail based heavily on planning quality. Several formal management plans guide project execution, including scope, schedule, cost, communication, resources, quality, and risk management plans. PMI emphasizes that these plans create the framework for controlling project performance and stakeholder expectations. I learned that without strong planning, project execution becomes reactive rather than proactive. Projects follow a structured life cycle consisting of initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and controlling, and closing. During initiation, organizations define the business need and establish project objectives. Planning develops the project roadmap. Execution performs the work. Monitoring task performance. Closing finalizes deliverables and documents lessons learned. PMI explains that each phase builds on the previous one, making early planning critical to later success. Risk management became one of the most valuable concepts I learned during this course, especially through the SIM project exercises. A risk management plan identifies risks, their probability, impact, response strategies, and contingency plans. PMI states that risk management should be proactive, not reactive. Through my simulation experience, I learned that failing to plan for risk early can quickly result in labor inefficiencies, reserve costs, and project delays. Qualitative risk analysis evaluates risk by probability and impact without assigning numerical values. It helps prioritize which risks require immediate attention. For example, a high probability, high impact risk becomes a top priority. PMI explains that qualitative analysis helps managers focus resources where they are needed most. I learned this method is useful early in project planning when exact financial data may not yet be available. Quantitative risk analysis assigns numerical values to risks and estimates their financial or schedule impact. Techniques include Monte Carlo simulation, expected monetary value, decision tree analysis, and sensitivity analysis. Kerzner explains that quantitative methods improve forecasting and reserve budgeting. I learned that combining both qualitative and quantitative analysis creates strong risk planning because it balances prioritization with measurable financial exposure. Fast tracking is a schedule compression technique where activities normally done in sequence are performed in parallel. PMI explains that this method can reduce schedule duration but increases the risk of rework. For example, beginning coding before finalizing system design may save time but can create errors later in the design changes. I learned that fast tracking requires careful coordination. Crashing is another schedule compression technique where additional resources are added to shorten the project timeline. Unlike fast tracking, crashing primarily increases cost rather than risk. Horine notes that crashing often involves overtime, contractors, or extra labor. During the SIM project, I saw firsthand how labor costs increased dramatically when additional work hours were needed to recover the schedule. Although both techniques shorten schedules, they work differently. Fast tracking overlaps tasks and increases coordination risk, while crashing adds resources and increased costs. PMI emphasizes that managers must evaluate project priorities carefully when deciding which technique to use. I learned that these decisions are often based on stakeholder deadlines, budget flexibility, and acceptable risk levels. Visual data tools help project managers communicate information more effectively. Examples include Gantt charts, dashboards, flowcharts, and network diagrams. Kerzner explains that visual reporting improves stakeholder understanding and accelerates decision making. During SIM project, I used budget charts, Gantt charts, quality reports, and response time charts to monitor performance. Visual data artifacts follow a structured process. Collect data, organize it, select the visualization method, present it, analyze it, and update continuously. For example, a project dashboard can compare planned cost against actual cost and show variances. PMI explains that visual artifacts improve transparency and support timely decision making. I learned that visual data often reveals project issues faster than written reports. This quote captures one of the biggest lessons I learned during this course. Management focuses on execution and control, while leadership focuses on vision, ethics, and people. Project manager demonstrates management by controlling schedules, budgets, resources, and scope changes. PMI emphasizes that project managers are responsible for maintaining alignment with approved baselines. During SIM project, I learned that poor resource allocation and delayed dependencies can quickly cause labor overruns and schedule delays. Leadership goes beyond procedures and focuses on people, ethics, and long-term success. A leader may delay a product release to correct a major defect, even if it affects the schedule. PMI explains that ethical leadership and stakeholder trust are critical to project success. My military experience reinforced this because leadership often requires making difficult decisions that protect the mission and the people involved. This project taught me that project management is much more than schedules and budgets. Successful project managers must gather and analyze information, plan carefully, manage risk proactively, communicate clearly, and lead teams through uncertainty. PMI emphasizes that project success depends on adaptability, leadership, and continuous improvement. My biggest takeaway is that technical skill alone is not enough. Effective project management requires balancing structure, communication, ethics, and leadership.